Okay, moving on in chapter 7, let's head on to section 3, health and illness. Now, first thing we're going to talk about is nutrition, because nutrition leads to good health. So some simple guidelines and some simple facts. 2 to 3 year olds, this is all in your book, require about 1,000 to 1,400 calories a day. Appetites can vary a great deal during ages 2 and 3 because caloric needs decrease. But by 4 to 8, children need between 1,200 and 2,000 calories a day. Now, this can vary widely depending on the activity level of the children. So there's not one particular guideline to follow here. Basically eating a balanced diet, protein, fruits, veggies, grains, dairy products, that sort of thing. Children are often fed too much salt and sugar. So food preferences do often seem environmental. Although we are born with a sweet tooth, but we're fairly indifferent to salt. But if we're repeatedly exposed to sweet and saltiness, we're going to develop a taste for liking it. So not only do children learn what they like from what they're given, but also from what they see their parents eating, and then also television advertising can certainly influence what kids want. As far as other health and illness, we have there's minor illnesses in childhood, and these are normal respiratory infections, colds, upset tummies, usually lasting a few days to a few weeks, and those are all normal. Number one killer of children in developing countries is diarrhea illnesses. Other major illnesses in terms of things like rubella, measles, tetanus, whooping cough, mumps, things like that have been tremendously curbed due to not only the use of antibiotics but also vaccinations. Now, as far as other major illnesses, about 1/3 of U.S. children younger than 18 suffer from a chronic illness like arthritis, diabetes, CP, or cystic fibrosis. If we're looking worldwide, about 8 to 9 million children die every year from things like pneumonia, diarrhea, measles and tetanus, whooping cough, and tuberculosis. Diarrhea kills 2 million children under the age of 5 each year, and those are mostly due to poor sanitation and hygiene. Air pollution does also pose a threat because from fossil fuels can develop into respiratory infections, and which is are responsible for 1 in 5 children under the age of 5. Now, the number one cause of death in early childhood is accidents. And the single most common cause of death in early childhood is motor vehicle accidents. Boys are more likely than girls to incur accidental injuries in all age groups and in all SES groups. So boys, number one in accidental injuries. Poor children are 5 times more likely to die from fires because of the probability of living in higher probability of living in dangerous housing and dangerous neighborhoods, and they're also more than twice likely to die in motor vehicle accidents. And again, the high rate of incidence for those accidents may be due to the having to live in more dangerous housing and more dangerous neighborhoods because of the low economic status. All right, moving on to sleep disorders. Now, one of the things that can plague kids during this time is a sleep disorder, and we talked about this in Psych 1 called sleep terrors. Now, these are more severe than nightmares, and they are not nightmares. Sleep terrors usually occur during the sleep cycle, whereas nightmares take place during REM sleep. So these aren't during the dream state. Now, these usually begin in childhood and end in adolescence. Can be associated with stress. Kids can wake up, screaming, surge in heart rate, talking incoherently, thrashing about. Many times, they will then wake up, or they'll wake up with all of those symptoms and then fall back into a more restful sleep tends to wane as kids get older. Something that seems to help kids with both sleep terrors and sleep insomnia and also nightmares is having a regular bedtime routine, regular structure, expected to sleep at the same place, same time, or same places, same times each night, just having that bedtime routine. Another sleep disorder that can occur during childhood, not just childhood, but does seem to occur frequently in childhood, is sleepwalking or somnambulism. Kids can walk around, talk, rearrange their toys, go to the bathroom, go to the refrigerator. I've heard of kids getting outside, going to neighbors' houses, just all kinds of crazy things. They typically don't have any memory of getting up and the activities that they were engaged in. The awakening a sleepwalking child is not going to cause aggressive behavior. The best thing you can do is just try to get them back to bed. But waking them, if you need to, particularly if they're going in danger of hurting themselves, is not going to hurt them. Usually between 3 and 8 is when we see this begin. Again, also occurs during deep sleep, and it seems to be associated with an immaturity of the nervous system. Now, if we look at sleep patterns and how much we really need to sleep, we can take a look here from infancy to older school-age children. You can see as we get a little bit older, the less we need. But still, we need quite a bit of sleep even up until school-age children. So as I was saying, you can see that sleep changes as we get a little bit older. When we're in infancy, we can need anywhere from 11 to 15 hours, and as we get progress to school age, we can need anywhere from 9 to 10. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about in this with this video is elimination disorders. Now, elimination disorders have all to do with around potty training, all right? And there are some different elimination disorders we're going to talk about. Now, most children who are potty trained, they are usually potty trained between 3 and 4. Many still have accidents. One is called, when some of those accidents can be attributed to enuresis. An enuresis is a failure to control bladder once a normal quote-unquote age has been achieved for when we think bladder control should be achieved, and that's usually around age 5. If we look at some criteria, so age 5 is the cutoff. So if accidents are continuing to happen after the age 5, unless they occur at least twice a month for 5 and 6-year-olds. Now, a problem with the motor cortex may be an immature motor cortex can be a problem. Those motor skills may not quite be where they need to be. And usually kids outgrow this by the age of 8 and adolescence. Another problem for kids this age are nighttime accidents, which we term as bedwetting. And this is the inability to wake up during the night and go to the bathroom, so wetting the bed. That's super common, but not super unusual. About 8 to 10% of all American children do wet the bed, and this usually happens during deep sleep. Twice as common among boys than it is girls. And interestingly, this is also the stage in that deep sleep where sleep terrors and sleepwalking take place as well. So lots going on potentially in that time of sleep. Again, these kinds of things seem to be attributable to the immaturity of the motor cortex and usually are outgrown as well. The last elimination disorder we're going to talk about is encopresis. Encopresis is a lack of control over the bowels. It's also more common with boys as is bedwetting. Now, this is less common, though, overall. About 1 to 2% of children at the age of 7, between 7 and 8, continue to have problem with the bowels. Unfortunately, it's sad, can tend to happen during the day. And if you're a 7 or 8-year-old, you're probably in school. And so that can be really embarrassing. Can stem from a physical cause like chronic constipation. Can also be psychological in nature, because of the stress and anxiety of particularly harsh punishments, for toileting accidents. So it can be a very vicious cycle because punishment can tend to make the child tense, and you can't move your bowels when you're tense. And then so once they do relax, they tend to have an accident, and it's just sort of a vicious cycle. But these are things that can be found, in this age. And usually beyond this age, around 7 or 8, is when they seem to resolve themselves.